All right, it is June 12th, 2016. I'm John Cantees, and I'm being joined by Robert Haddy.
Yes, me.
Longtime friend, but also concerned citizen, bit of an activist.
Sort of.
I would say more than
Political
sort of.
hopeful, I guess you could call it.
I'm trying to lay your foundation here for your political future. Will you just allow it?
Yes, okay.
Okay.
I'll be quiet.
So, yes, Robert is an activist. He does a lot of communicating with officials around the area. He has a lot of opinions about things. I thought he'd be a good fit
have a lot of opinions
for the show. We're also going to bring on another guy, a friend of mine, Eric Rogers, who is also in no shortage of opinions. But right now, let's just talk to Robert. Robert, how you been? What you been up to?
I'm good. I'm posting right now on Facebook, so everybody
That's very
knows
rude.
to join in and listen.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Aside from that, I'm pretty good. I've been very, very busy lately.
You painted a mural.
Oh, I did paint a mural. That we did that in that was up in Maryland at Ocean City, doing it for a haunted house, and then went straight from there to came home long enough to wash my underwear, throw it back in the suitcase, and then head down to Myrtle Beach for a convention called XCon. Then from there we went to Atlanta for my little event, which is called FX University, where we do like lessons, and there's a whole weekend full of cool stuff, and everybody really seemed to have a good time with that. So maybe we'll do it again next year. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about something we've both been holding very dear to our hearts and watching very closely over the past year or so. This Democratic nomination process. A lot of tomfoolery. A lot of tomfoolery. But I do think, and you may disagree with me on this, and we can talk about it, but I think even though there was some tomfoolery going on, even though there was more than likely, or there were some issues with these caucuses, and there were some things that may have put Clinton over the top in some areas where she didn't belong, and may have even put Bernie over the top in some areas where he didn't belong. I think that the margin between Clinton and Bernie is so large. It's not astronomical, but it is large enough that even if the tomfoolery wasn't happening, I think she would still be winning this nomination. I think she's
Really?
Yeah, I don't see any evidence. I see evidence of, okay, Kentucky was a little weird, but that was a razor-thin margin. That was about a 2,000 vote margin. Iowa was a little weird, but that was a margin of even less. And Hillary is millions and millions of votes ahead of him.
Well,
so that's how it seems to me. What do you think?
I will say that I think that there's a lot of discrepancies with these voting machines, because you don't get 60, 70,000 people in an auditorium in numerous cities throughout each state, and then have the kind of strange turnout that you have when you look at the count. And California is still out; they're still counting votes. So it's presumptive is more like presumptuous to me in this election cycle.
You have a point there, because let's be very clear: the superdelegates have not voted yet. You can't
count those. You cannot count superdelegates, and that's what they've been doing the entire process.
Every time CNN or somebody comes on and says that
national media lumps the superdelegate count into the actual delegate count. Now, what bothers me about delegates is that you can still have someone win by a vast majority of that state, but yet the delegate count is still split between the two of them. Mm-hmm. There's something wrong.
It's not reflective.
It's not. No, it's not. And if you win the state, you should win all the delegates. It's that simple. If you're going to do a delegate,
or do away with the delegates altogether and just have popular vote.
Well, that's really what should happen. But that would be too fair for them. So
Well, I think the way I understand it was the delegate system came into effect a long time ago, back when there was a lot of space between people and not everybody was able to show up and vote. So they would have some people show up that represented certain districts and certain neighborhoods and certain areas. And it made sense back, during the Wild West.
Vocalized live on television by Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Oh, here we go.
Said, you know what I'm going to say.
I know, go ahead.
You know exactly what I'm going to say. Superdelegates exist so that party leaders don't have to contend with a grassroots activist. Quote unquote. That's very close.
Oh, there's superdelegates. Yeah, there's no argument. I can't justify superdelegates.
That's what she stated about. Yes, sorry about the superdelegates. And to me, if just right there, blatantly said it on camera for all that didn't care. Mm-hmm. So it just shows you the arrogance and the hubris of the people that run the party. But again, I'd rather have a Democrat in office than a Republican any day. But What are you going to do when they don't elect what bothers me most is that he polls stronger nationally against Donald Trump than she does, and people just completely ignore that.
Right. There's the retort to that would be, well, Hillary hasn't consolidated yet, because the primary isn't over. So there's still people that are sitting over there in the corner with their arms crossed and their Bernie signs saying, "I don't support anyone but Bernie."
Yeah, I think
so they're not going to count when you're looking at who do you support, Hillary or Trump or undecided. Those people are going to say undecided in that poll. You know what I mean?
Mm. Well, I think it's a good way of looking at it. I haven't thought of it that way, but
I think it's a weak retort, but that would be their retort. Really,
we do have a definite issue with Bernie or bust people because that's something that she needs to think about very seriously.
I don't think she is, though.
No, she's not, and that's a bad sign already.
I think she thinks that Bernie supporters are going to get over it. They have 5 months to look at her juxtaposed with Trump, and they're going to choose her. They're going to fall in line. Why waste time? Why waste money? Why waste energy winning over their hearts when she's so confident that they're just going to fall in line anyway? And I think she might have a point. I think most Bernie supporters are going to fall in line. Do you not?
I don't think so. Well, I think most of them will. I don't think a lot of these Bernie or bust people, but people are discounting how big of a group of his supporters that is too.
It's millions of people.
Yeah, I mean that could sink an election and very easily.
Yeah, and there's also this other side of it where not only is she not courting the Bernie people, but she is courting center right corporatist Bush people who are upset with Trump, and that doesn't look good to her base. You know what I mean? That doesn't look good to the Democratic base. That she's not only is she not spending time on a Bernie supporter to try to say, okay, yeah, I'm for universal health care. Here's where we're going to do it. She's not only is she not doing that, but she is going to these meetings, these secret meetings where the media isn't allowed. So these places where they play noise machines.
You're going to bring that up. So white noise.
So I mean, what is that? Some weird. I've never heard of noise machines before this election. But anyway, so she's doing that stuff, and you put that next to the fact that she's not courting Bernie supporters. And what are they supposed? I mean, what are they supposed to think? I mean, they're going to be upset right now.
To me, it looks like a big middle finger. It's like, well, we don't care what you think.
You're going to fall in line. Well, I'm not going to waste energy on you. That's what it says. Mm-hmm. And she's going for the Republicans that Trump has upset. And I think if you're looking at spreadsheets and you're not looking at people, I think if you're just looking at papers, you're looking at polls, you're looking at spreadsheets, I think that makes sense. I could see why she came to that conclusion with how she is. She's an administrator. When she says she's not a natural politician, she's right in a way because she's an administrator. She's a principal. She doesn't necessarily deal with the kids. Mm-hmm. She deals with the papers and the disciplinary things, and she says, this kid did this, well, then this is going to happen.
Emails.
Right. Well, I don't know. The email issue has moved, I think. At first, for a long time, I thought, okay, there's nothing to this. This is ridiculous. But, now that I'm seeing, okay, there was a private server in her house, that seems unprecedented. I don't know what that means. I don't know.
They say that Powell and Rice both had those types of things too, but not to the volume that she was.
Why? I mean, then fine.
30,000.
If other people did it too, what kind of argument is that? Does that make it right?
No, definitely not.
That's not. What kind of argument is that? Other people did it too. So
there are people that lose jobs over leaving a piece of paper on a desk that's even moderately classified in a locked office. So. It bothers me that there was that much information just floating around out there.
And the fact is, this is one of those situations where we're never going to be able to prove definitively one way or the other that anything weird was going on, which gives the left room for doubt and it gives the right room for speculation. And that's the way it's always going to be. It's never going to be over. You know what I mean?
Well, the government has a way of hiding what they want to hide and showing off what they want to show off. So, this is one of those situations that'll get swept under the rug, most likely. I know that a lot of Bernie people are holding out for the fact that an indictment, which is just not going to happen. And
I don't think it is either.
I mean, it would be, number one, unprecedented, like you said, but I just don't think that that's going to end up being the end root of this whole mess. It's just, like you said, it's just a subterfuge for the Republican Party to, give people another reason to hate her, which, isn't really necessary. I mean, people hate her for a lot of reasons, and giving them one more isn't doing much,
right?
So
assuming this indictment doesn't happen, which I think we both realize probably won't happen.
I don't think it's going to happen, but I could be wrong. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. This election has been an election of everyone like us who talk on the radio, all of us being wrong about everything.
Well, it would just be such a politically huge scandal. I just don't think that the government is willing to go that far. I mean, you understand what that would mean for our country if she was indicted and she's the presumptive Democratic nominee?
That would mean President Trump.
That would mean it would be bad. I mean, this would be a scandal of epic proportions. This would make this would be right up there with JFK kind of scandal. I just don't know that our country is willing to go there.
Well, we'll see. Now let's move on to the general, because I think we're going to have to anyway. But this has been a fun primary, I will say.
I don't know if I'd use that word. I'd say stressful for me. It was very stressful.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We'll say that. Fun is the wrong word. You're right. It is. There's been more frowns than smiles. But so the general election is looking like, I think Trump is the favorite to win, and I'll explain why. This is.
I would agree with you at this point.
I think that.
Sadly, I would agree with you. I mean, reluctantly, but
I mean, it's a matter of facts. It's not a matter of opinion.
No,
it's Trump has room to grow.
Oh, yeah.
He has a lot of room to grow, and he's already established his floor. He's already hit rock bottom. He hit rock bottom the day he announced, when he called Mexicans rapists. He established, He said, this is the bar. I can't go lower than this, and I'm going to give it to you as soon as I start running. Really, I think that was probably on purpose. I don't think Trump is a stupid person. And so he established his bottom bar. He can't go below that. What do you do to go below that? You can't. You can go back to it, but you can't go below it. So he's set our expectations low, so when he starts acting really presidential in the general, he has nowhere to go but up. And Hillary, on the flip side of that, has been a figure on the public stage for 20 years, and everybody already has an opinion of her. Everyone either likes her or dislikes her, and very few people are going to change that. So she has nowhere to go but down. So her game is to maintain her game, and Trump's game is to grow.
I think when
you have room to grow, you're going to grow.
I think what it speaks to as well is the nation's continuing infatuation with celebrity and idolatry, where it's completely unwarranted. I mean, Donald Trump has been in the public eye. You do realize this since the 80s. He's been a huge media figure. Not in this context, but he's always been in the media since the early 80s. And it shows you when someone, what's really frightening to me is seeing his support group foam at the mouth over the stuff that he's saying. So they agree with all of this stuff. So what you're seeing is you're not seeing people being recoiled by shock and distaste. That's on the other side. The people on his side love it. They love what he's doing. They love what he's saying. And he's playing to the right crowd. And you've also got, I've heard this statement before. You've got a Republican Party who has fostered hate and discord and disunity for the last 20 years. And the personification of that it's like Frankenstein's monster. You've created this monster in Donald Trump because he represents everything that you have been saying all
the things you've been letting slide.
Yeah, you've been putting these things out in people's brains for the last 20, 30 years, and now this is what you get. You're welcome. This is what you earned. It's like, don't act like you didn't plan. Don't act like you thought this was like some big shock that somebody was going to come out and actually throw out all those crass terms that you skirt around when you take your digs at certain people, which is what they do. They take their digs, but politely. Right. And that's not the way a president handles things. And they slide things in. When they with their bills and their lobbyists.
Yeah. And that, and like you said, but what's interesting is not only did they create it, but now they can't control him.
No, he's uncontrollable. And that's the whole point.
And it's scary for everybody.
And he likes it that way. He loves it that way.
Oh yeah, he's definitely enjoying
And so
himself.
do his supporters. His supporters, what do you hear? They say he's not a politician. That's what I love about him. He speaks what's on his mind. Okay, so what about his policies? What's that? It's like I don't. They don't even go into what he stands for. They think it's awesome that he's foaming at the mouth at a podium.
Mm-hmm. Blind rage.
Blind rage. Well, that's what's happening right now in the country. The taste of.
And I get why they have blind rage. They have blind rage because they have been thrown overboard by this system.
Well,
and there are a lot of problems.
And if you look at it logically, Bernie and Donald Trump are two sides of the same coin. Bernie represents the people on one hand that have also been disenfranchised and stepped on and beat up and all this stuff, but he's doing it from the intellectual perspective.
Right.
He's doing it from the right brain.
They both have the same gasoline.
Exactly,
but they're very
and then
different
he's
vehicles.
doing it. And he's playing to the emotional hatred, jealousy, and envy that people have because they see people with more. So
right.
instead of it being a situation where, hey, we're on the same team here, we're speaking the same things, but we don't. He's just crazy, man. I mean, Bernie at least has a compassionate heart about him to the point where that's what he's focused on is ensuring that all people live a good life.
Right.
That's what spoke to me about him anyway.
And so we're going to leave it right there just for a minute. We're going to take a short break. I'm going to bring in Eric Rogers, and we're going to talk about why is Bernie still in the race? What does he have to accomplish at this point?
Oh, I think he has a lot. That'll be good.
I think he does too. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit, and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Mountain State Update on 88.1 WTSQ in Charleston. All right, and we're back. This is the Mountain State Update on WTSQ 88.1. This is your June 12th episode. I'm John Canties. I'm being joined by Robert R.J. Haddy,
yes, RJ.
As he's now known, because now he's a TV man. And I'm here with Eric Rogers as well, concerned citizen activist.
Thank you for having me.
The human man. Ooh, let me turn on your mic. Hold on.
Human man. I like that.
There you go. That's Eric.
Man.
Eric, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
So you're doing good. So you're like a superhero? You go
Yeah.
around, you save people?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's what
Doing
I do.
good.
Well, on a
Doing
Sunday.
well. What some people would say.
Good one, John.
Wow. I can only be so educated.
That's fine. Well, that's why you're on the show. We love the poorly educated. So anyway, all right, let's talk a little bit.
Keep asking me back.
Let's talk about Bernie Sanders. What does he have to gain by staying in this race and going to the convention? I know that the superdelegates have not voted yet, but without an indictment on Clinton, there's just no way that they're going to flip. They're just not. I mean, we'll see. I'm not going to say that they've already voted like CNN says, but I will say that.
Well, he was hoping for a huge landslide in California, and that was going to make his case for why they should.
Right, but that didn't happen.
Okay, well, not yet.
What do you mean not yet? They already voted.
Not yet. Well, they did vote, but a lot of those votes have not been tabulated yet. A lot of people voted, and they haven't been counted yet.
Okay. Well,
You know that they haven't been counted yet.
I know that we're not going to end up with a landslide.
Well,
for
I don't think
Bernie,
we're going to
though.
end up with the kind of total.
That's not
that
how
he wanted.
counting votes
No.
works. It doesn't just flip in the other direction.
But a lot of
like
those provisional ballots that those people were forced to use. You know what happens to a provisional ballot? It ends up in the garbage.
A lot of times they don't even get counted until something happens. Like
And I think what you're going to see, what's going to happen here, and I think what's going to happen in the next few weeks, is you're going to see a whole slew of lawsuits come out over. This is just an opinion, and I'm not basing it on anything. But you're going to see a whole slew of lawsuits come out, and not basically from the Bernie Sanders people, but they may come from other sources to speak to what happened in Nevada and Arizona and now California, New York.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had Bill Clinton electioneering at polls in Boston. I mean,
which is completely breaking the rules.
It's not even, people say, well, it's not illegal. You know what? He's a president. He should know better. And it's really disgusting it's a really disgusting display of what happened. And I think that it's like the guy on Fat Albert used to say, no class. I mean, it has no class to do something like that,
I mean, for the longest time, they've been so sure of the sure win. It seems like they were not expecting a challenge at the beginning of this. And, I
agree with you.
I understand the position so far as, like, they really want to win this and they've been aggressive towards it. But it has seemed really unfair. And my biggest problem is it doesn't seem like there's anything to help out the Bernie supporters to want Hillary. It seems like they're doing everything they can to push as far away. Bernie Sanders staying in the race just promotes his message, and he looks better the longer he's been in there. He may not be president, but he is certainly changing the Democratic Party.
Oh yeah, the Democratic Party will never be the same again.
Which
never, and that's a good thing, actually.
Sure, and I mean, if you see just what happened in West Virginia, and we'll talk about West Virginia here shortly, but Democratic Party platforms are changing.
Look at all the people that are getting elected to Congress because he's endorsing them.
We're talking about $15 minimum wage now, where we weren't really talking about that before. I mean, some people were, but not everybody. Now everybody's talking about it.
You're also talking about legalization of marijuana around the United States, which is at least, and now it's on the table here in our state.
Right.
So if it's here, if it's gotten this far to get to West Virginia, you know that there's some legwork being done.
There's a lot being done, and that's the thing about grassroots movements like Bernie Sanders, as opposed to something that is coasting on name recognition and just has.
People just had enough. People just had enough of this crap, and it you don't have to be a political analyst. You don't have to be a labor statistician to notice the problems that are facing the people of this country. It's very obvious. All you have to do is look at your bank account.
all Bernie. I went to one of the Bernie rallies here in town, and all he really did. I mean, he talked about his vision and his experience a little bit, but for the most part, he just read off statistics about McDowell County in particular, and he read off statistics just about how things have deteriorated over time, and how our wages are not matching the cost of living anymore.
Anybody that's running, I feel like he is the common man that understands what most people are dealing with, and could have made some headway for those people.
Well, more than that, I would argue he was the only person to ever bring up our water crisis. Our West Virginia problem.
I never heard Hillary talk about it.
That's true.
Hillary hasn't talked about it. Trump certainly didn't talk about it. And it seems like he was actively trying, as opposed to the other two. I mean, Trump
he seemed like
put
he was
on
really
the coal
invested
hat.
in West Virginia.
Yeah, for sure. But he cares more than just coal. And I think Trump just put on the hat, and that was enough.
Right. He just put on a hard hat and shouted the word coal.
Yeah.
Which is all you need to do.
Well,
in the Republican Party anyway.
Well, we're going to have to get to a point where the state decides that coal's not coming back, and we need to wake up to that fact, and we need to retrain these men. We don't need to, and that's, I think, what the problem is that the miners, the people that do the labor in the mines, are vilifying anybody that speaks out against coal, but they're not taking into the larger picture, which is we understand that that's your plight. We don't want to kick you out of a job. We want to retrain you. We want to help you.
Right.
Find a living doing something else.
We want you to transition.
Yeah.
We don't just want to take it away. We want you to transition.
A lot of it's pride. I mean, a lot of it is the fact that they have a heritage of coal mining.
Yeah.
And I get that. That's a stubborn thing, and it's very hard to get over. I understand that.
Right.
But, at the same token, we know coal is a dead industry.
Right.
And we know better solutions.
I mean, if broadcasting were to suddenly be taken away for some reason, I would be upset. I don't think. I mean, I get it. When something when your career is just no longer an option, when the thing that you're trained to do, the thing that you do is gone, what do you do?
Yeah.
So I get that, and
I feel that myself.
Right.
I'm a practical effects artist.
Yeah, and CG. What is CG?
I'm looking at all these movies that are coming out this year, and it's like they look like CG wonderlands. It's like you got a human actor here, and then everything else is done in a computer. Why don't you just animate the whole damn thing? You take the person out of the picture completely. It's all a big cartoon at that point, So I understand it. I get it. Mm-hmm. My career has been in that same position. So,
I think the practical effects are coming back, like in a. I think there's almost in a nostalgic kind of way.
I think there's a place for them in independent filmmaking. I don't think that Hollywood will ever embrace practical effects again. I think you'll have directors that will, like Guillermo del Toro, that will want to utilize them in conjunction with CGI, but I don't think you'll ever see anybody doing a Hollywood movie that's as fully in camera as they used to do.
You ever see the Silent Hill movie?
Yes.
I thought they did a good job of mixing practical effects and CGI in that. Did you notice how they mixed them up?
Eric says no. I don't know about that. out of all the movies you could have chosen, you lost me at Silent
Hill.
I think
fine. Let's say Hellboy 2. Hellboy 2.
Okay, Hellboy 2
is a good one.
Yeah.
But, and so is Jurassic Park. I mean, you look at the original Jurassic Park. It's a great mix of both things. But now the new Jurassic Park was had one or two puppets in the whole thing. The rest of it were.
They had a great miniature kaiju movie at the end of Jurassic Park or Jurassic World. Remember the scene with the two T-Rexes fighting? That was cool. That's
miniature kaiju.
That's all I can say about the movie.
I've ranted enough about Jurassic World on my own time,
but not on the radio.
on the radio.
But anyway, so let's talk about the state, where the state is at right now. We have, as far as I know, there's still no real budget. And here's a statistic that a lot of people throw out, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. This special session costs $35,000 a day.
That's great.
And we're already in the hole.
$35,000 would pay a teacher. I mean, that's not a great living, but that's a living for somebody.
Yeah.
That's enough money for someone to have somewhat of a lifestyle. And every day, that's what they're squandering.
I lived very well on $34,000.
Yeah, but you can do it. It's not amazing, but you can do it. And that's what it costs a day for them to sit around and argue about a cigarette tax.
I think that we've gotten to a point where that body is so blinded by their own.
Now, there are good people in the House of Delegates. There are people who have tried things, and there are good people in the Senate.
But
it's just not working.
They're outnumbered. They can't do anything because of the obstructionism that's happening at this point. Bill Cole is a disaster. I'm just going to say it. I think he's a slime bag.
You're talking about Bill Cole, Republican nominee.
Oh, yes. Anybody that would vote for him for governor.
Foghorn Leghorn.
I say, look here, boy.
Nothing wrong with that. I just think it's a stunning connection.
It very much is, yes. But no, he's not doing his job in the legislature. Why do people think that he would do his job as governor?
It's all salesmanship. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think a lot of people really follow this very carefully. I mean,
which is a shame.
It is a shame, but that's politics in a nutshell. A lot of it's stubbornness and sides, and we've gotten to this point where it's just so binary that we can't have compromise or agreement. And because of that, there is no budget because nobody wants to talk. Everybody's very much in their own bubble, pretty much.
It's ultra binary.
It is, and that's not just
when
the
did we
state.
When did we become that polarized, though, and why?
From as far as I remember, we've been. There's any talk of an independent has been laughed off my whole life, but it's never been to the point where I feel like where it's just zero chance now, which is kind of ironic because now we see libertarian parties polling at about. 10%.
I disagree purely because of Bernie Sanders. Because he
ran
was
on the Democratic ticket as well.
He did, but he was also an independent, and I think more people who have joined the Democratic Party are angry at the Democratic Party.
Well, they're leaving Democratic Party in droves for registering for independent.
Mm. Are you going to do that?
Oh yes, yeah. As soon as the convention is over, and there was this chatter online about doing it before the convention to show them, look, what is happening. You're pushing us out. And then hopefully by the time the convention rolls around, that would be a good argument for him to say, well, elect me the nomination.
See, I don't know if that's a good thing to do, Robert, because what if, I don't think we have them now, but what if we end up with closed primaries all over the country, and because you wanted to make a point, you shifted to independent, and now you don't have a say in the Democratic Party's nomination?
I don't really feel like I had a say in this one anyway.
That's.
Even though West Virginia won by a landslide,
right?
He won West Virginia by a landslide over here. I think it was simply because he wasn't Hillary.
Yeah,
I don't
think he won because of. I think there were a lot of good pro-Bernie people in this state, but yeah, definitely the.
I think the landslide the landslide. What brought the landslide was the anti-Clinton mentality,
which was, I think, founded on nothing, right? What is she going to do? That Bernie Sanders
She made one comment about putting a lot of coal mines out of business, and that was all it had to.
And it was actually part of a larger thought.
Yeah,
which really wasn't anywhere nearly as maniacal as it was being played out to be.
It's all everything happens in context. I think too. It's like what was the context in which she was saying the comment too? What was the?
She was just talking about the climate of the energy of the future of energy.
Yeah, and
she just said this is one thing that's going to happen. A lot of coal miners are going to be put out of business.
We need to
It's
understand
not her
that.
saying I'm going to purposefully go out there and make sure that coal miners are put out of business. That's not what she said, and that's how it was. That's how it was portrayed.
And then, ironically enough, in the same statement, she's like, "Oh, but I'm fine with fracking."
Right.
And that's what turned off, I feel like, a lot of younger people, other than the pro-Bernie stuff.
Well,
I feel like these two added together.
The moment Bernie consolidated the young people, I think in the first or second debate, it was pretty early on, when he said he wants to have public colleges tuition free, which is not a big deal. It was that way 30 years ago, or 40 years ago or so. Public colleges were free. And Hillary said, well, she danced around it. She wouldn't say the same thing. She wouldn't say me too. That's what she should have done. She should have said me too. And instead she said, well, what we'll do is we'll have debt-free college, so they'll still pay, but they just won't go into a lot of debt, which is, that's a good proposal as well, but when you put it right next to Bernie's proposal, it's not as good. And when you got young people who are $20, $30, $40, $50,000 in debt, which one are they going to choose?
You were speaking earlier about, what I think it was off mic. We were talking about how she's going to be able to sway his people over.
Right.
And I think she only has one path to accomplish that. She has to nominate him she has to have him as her running mate for vice president.
Not going to happen.
I know it's not going to happen. I'm just saying that's what she has to do.
That would go a long way.
But she won't do that.
I expect her to go for Elizabeth Warren, which is similar values.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Elizabeth Warren real quick, because we were talking about that too in the elevator on the way up. And I know we're trying to talk about the state here, but we'll get to Jim Justice here in a minute. But Elizabeth Warren.
No one is safe.
Elizabeth Warren was female version of Bernie Sanders policy-wise.
Yeah.
For
years.
Since she was senator, maybe probably before that, really, because there's a video of her from 2004, basically saying Hillary Clinton sat down with me. I explained to her this thing about, I think it was a trade deal, and I explained why this is bad. And I explained how this hurts working class people and poor people. And she listened and she asked questions and she was interested and she agreed with me at the end of it. And she was opposed to it. And then when she became a senator, the same thing came back up and she voted for it. And she said that in plain language. I know.
I've seen the video 100 times. I've watched it 100 times. It was one of my incessant posts during the vote for Bernie instead of Hillary. This is why you should vote for Bernie. And now it's become a look at how Elizabeth Warren has flip-flopped video.
And I think, if she picks Elizabeth Warren, even though as much as progressives want to see that happen, I think if she picks Elizabeth Warren, the Republicans, and by Republicans I mean Trump, is going to have this ammunition where they can say, well, Elizabeth Warren said this.
Yeah.
Look at this. She was not happy with Hillary Clinton. And Trump has always been talking about how the trade deals are bad. So that would fit right in with Trump's platform. That would go perfectly in a Trump video.
At the same time, that's a very easy way to combat it. You just say, I need somebody from a different perspective to give me a different light on situations. But there's an easy way to make that work. And I don't know. Trump is so bullying.
It's a Swift boat thing, though. Like he could release that a week before the election.
But how does Warren save face, though, at this point? How do you not look like a complete turncoat?
Bernie lost her state by not razor-thin margin, but not by a very big margin either. And if she had endorsed him, he might have won that.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
She didn't endorse him on purpose. It bothers me that they have so much in common as far as their platforms are concerned. She never endorsed him, and then she endorses Clinton at this point, at this juncture, because she sees that there's something to be gained from it for herself. And that really pissed me off. I'm going to be quite frank. I lost all respect for her at that point.
You got a lot of cuss words today.
I do. I'm full of piss and vinegar.
Well, stop it.
See, here I was trying to keep the cleanest mouth possible.
Keep doing it.
What did I say? I said piss. Is that a cuss word? All right.
I don't know.
I feel like that's offensive to a certain degree of whatever.
It's in a gray area.
I don't know. You take me off this microphone, I'll say words you can't even believe.
Right.
But
he makes up words.
I do.
I sound like Yosemite Sam on a good day.
You are Yosemite Sam.
But no, I really feel like that was a huge smack in the face to the people that have supported her, and her platform.
Sure.
So that I don't know. What do you think about that?
It's expected. I kind of feel like if you're in politics, unfortunately, there's always an element of selfishness, and it just kind of comes with it. Every single politician I have seen, for one way or another, you have to have an ego to get into it. It's just part of the job.
Sure.
Even Bernie Sanders, I love him. He's running for president.
Yeah.
There has to be a level of egotism to do that.
If you think you're qualified to be president, you have an ego.
You do. That's not to say,
Fair.
that his intentions aren't good.
Right.
That's just to say that that's base level. I understand why she does it. I just hope that doesn't impact necessarily her actual standpoints when she does the political things. But that is my low level of optimism right now. Is just, I hope you're what you say you are. And that's what it's come to.
And I think it's, at least from the way Elizabeth Warren is packaging this and delivering this to people and the way she's speaking about it, it seems like this is, for her, this is more of, I don't want Trump to get in the White House. And I'm going to do, this is what I have to do in order to stop it. And if it upsets Bernie people, that's unfortunate. But I'm going to go with Hillary because Hillary won. And I'm going, and I don't want anything in my past conflicting that, even though she does have that one video. But, if she doesn't have a Bernie endorsement, she can be right there with Hillary. She can consolidate. She can help consolidate the Democratic Party. She can help bring the progressive left into the center-right.
They're going to have a lot of work ahead of them.
They do, but I think that ultimately, right now, people are upset. But in a few months, I think that endorsement will help. That will help bring the progressive left.
You may be
back.
right. I think everything, they say time heals all wounds, and I think that people have very short memory spans too when it comes to stuff like this. So they'll, and I'm talking short as in from one week to the next. You don't know what, last week we were bitching about bathrooms in North Carolina instead of, the voter fraud that was occurring across the country because it's subterfuge. It's like, let's give them something else to bitch about so they don't think about the real issues.
Sorry.
What's your problem?
At the same token, I have been clean all day. I'm proud.
You're great.
At the same token, how much will, even if she gets the nomination or the vice presidency,
right.
Let's say that, how much impact is she actually going to have? I look at John McCain when he brought on Sarah Palin, and it really wasn't a situation where she was going to do anything. Just kind of in the background. This might just be for political points for the nomination, and then just kind of go out the door.
That really killed him, though. It was
but it was the idea.
They were so scared of the Democratic ticket because that was an extremely strong Democratic ticket, and they had an extremely tarnished brand. We'll just put it that way. And they wanted to just defibrillate their campaign. That was a very different situation.
I never understood what the mentality was behind him choosing her. I never understood that.
Well, they wanted to defibrillate the campaign. Their campaign was started off very slow. They were very boring. McCain is extremely qualified on paper, but it was a boring ticket. And they were running against the first African American nominee. And he was not only that, but he was a great speech giver. He was a great politician, and and people were flocking to him. And they had a great ticket. Republicans had nothing, and they needed to shock people.
And they didn't vet her. That's the real situation with that.
They rushed it. They didn't vet her. They said, let's get this attractive person that no one knows and put her on there. And that's, have you ever see Game Change, the HBO movie?
No.
Watch that movie.
That is fantastic.
It's based on the book written by the woman that was Palin's top advisor. So it's pretty close. I imagine it's probably pretty close to what happened. So anyway, we got a few minutes left. Let's talk about Jim Justice. You got a last name Justice. You're governor, right?
Sounds like a good plan.
So is that? We had Goodwin. We had Kessler.
And I thought both of those would have made.
I thought Goodwin was going to get it.
Yeah, I personally voted for Kessler.
I was hoping either one of them would have got it over Mr. Justice, but not
only did he get it, but he got it by a lot. And I'm thinking either Goodwin or Kessler needed to get out, and they needed to consolidate that Jim Justice opposition vote. And it seems like that was where they messed up.
They had too many. Yeah, they had too many people running.
Right. Kind of like if Martin O'Malley were running in the Democratic Party still, people would be blaming him for Bernie losing. Although that ended up not being the case, but you know what I mean.
No, exactly.
You got to consolidate that opposition vote.
I liked a lot of Kessler's points, and I liked a lot of Goodwin's points too. I think personally, I voted for Booth, but I liked a lot of what Kessler was talking about because he was mirroring a lot of what Bernie was saying, and I thought that he would have been a good fit. Kessler's been a really strong voice for the right side of the aisle, I think, for a long time, and I think that he would make a good governor if he ever got the chance.
Absolutely, and what he did was he actually went out and endorsed Bernie. And
Did he? I didn't know
that. And he
went
to when Bernie had his big rally in Huntington.
I was out of town. I missed all that stuff.
I couldn't make it. Yeah, I had something. What did I have? School or
we
work
had
or
class.
Something? Yeah, we had a script writing class. Yeah,
we go to the school together.
And I actually drove down and tried to make it. I couldn't make it. I right when I got there, it ended.
We ended up making the other rally though, so it all worked out.
But then, so Kessler went out and actually endorsed Bernie. He took a stand, which was
that's pretty cool.
Which that may have actually helped Bernie a little bit too. But so anyway, let's go over just one thing. We have
Mr. Justice.
We have just a little bit of time left here. But who thinks the favorite to win this governor election? I don't know.
I think it's a landslide going to be Justice.
That's what I'm thinking.
There's no way.
Unfortunately, I'm fully believing in Justice.
He's the favorite at the moment. Polls indicate.
You'd rather see Bill Clinton?
I didn't say I wanted it. I said I'm expecting it.
That's okay.
The way I see
Eric's
it,
a Republican. Everyone knows this.
Obviously, I am Republican man. Here's the thing about Jim Justice. This is stupid, but I am going to say it. We don't. What is that noise?
Oh yeah.
Anyway, West Virginia. I see voting a man just because his name is Justice. I really do. I see on the poll.
It looks good on paper.
By comparison, when I went in, I didn't know too much about local politics. I kind of learned about that after the vote because I was too focused on the big election, and I just saw names. And I see a lot of people that are going to look at it like that. Now, eventually, I looked into everything, and I understand. Thankfully, I voted for Kessler. But I see people saying Justice. That sounds good. That sounds like
you're
a
low
name.
Information voter. I mean, there is a psychological aspect to that kind of thing.
No, there really is. Well, why do you think so many? Well, look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. Look at Ronald Reagan. I mean, you see again. This goes back to what I was talking about.
But recognizable people.
But exactly, we have a fascination with celebrity and what people a stature. Look at the Kardashians. Look at stuff like that. I mean, it's garbage, but yet people flock to it, and they want to see those types of people as much as possible. This is what is steamrolling Mr. Trump.
Absolutely.
Sure.
So, and I think the same thing can be said for Mr. Justice. He came into the state, he bought the Greenbrier, saved this historical monument for the state, and now he's done so much good for the citizens of, Lewisburg area and all this stuff. So I think that's what's playing into their decision-making process.
He proves that with enough money, you can make anything happen.
Yes.
You can make people forget that you did other things, too.
Exactly.
So we'll have to leave it there, guys. Robert, RJ Haddy, what do you want to plug? Plug something here.
Oh, just follow me on Instagram, RJ Haddy Official, Twitter, RJ Haddy Official, Periscope, RJ Haddy Official. It's pretty hard to remember.
Dylan Radigan from MSNBC had a segment he did at the end of all his shows where he called it Shameless Plug.
It's a shameless plug.
And he left cable news because he had enough of it and it of him, I'm sure. So, Eric, what's your shameless plug?
My shameless plug would be my YouTube channel, Memory Card Radio, which I do with several friends of mine, one who happens to be on this very show.
Is there an E3 thing coming up?
There is during E3, which is this Sunday through, I think, Tuesday?
Yep.
Sunday through Tuesday, we're going to be live streaming all the big press conferences. We talk about video games. It's a fun show, and I would love everybody listening to tune in.
Check that out. That's what's the URL for that?
YouTube.com/memorycardradio.
All right, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be on next week, 88.1 in Charleston, West Virginia. This was your Mountain State Update for June 12th. We'll see you next week at noon.